Styles Collective interview series. You have a pretty big event coming up, and so we want to talk about that, but you also have a very extensive ultra running list. You are a beacon here on the East Coast, so welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
What have you been up to today? It is 10 a.m., so we're starting early.
Yeah, so basically the last few weeks have just been planning for this big run, and I'm moving out of my apartment and getting everything ready to go into living in a van. So everything
So
has to shrink.
you're actually just like, are you going to do van life? Like, because this is going to take you. So Shan is going to run across the country, everybody, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. So to whet your palate, that's coming later. But so Shan is also going to move into a van during this time. So it's going to take about 3 to 4 months. So you just decided to move out of your apartment in this time?
Yep. So might as well save some money and I'm in events marketing. There's not a lot of work right now. So I'm taking the opportunity to do van life and road life.
Yeah, so I read Shan works for Hartford Marathon events. Yes?
I did that, not anymore. Since we don't have any events, there's no more work for me.
Okay.
So I got caught up in the COVID disaster, and I'm going to take the opportunity to try to do something positive with it.
Yeah, I mean, you are also going to raise money for a food bank, right? For this during
Yeah,
this run.
Food Share is the charity. Food Share is the main deliverer of food in Central Connecticut, and I've actually been working with them for almost a couple years now, and so we're going to try to see what we can to do as much good as we can.
Okay, so I was reading a little bit on your blog, and you, which hasn't been updated since 2015, because then you were living in Chicago. So why did you move from Chicago to Hartford?
So actually moved from Chicago, and then I was living in Long Beach. Then actually lived in my little RV van for about 9 months, and then to Connecticut to work with the Hartford Marathon Foundation, starting beginning of last year.
Oh, all right, cool. I've done van life for about 7 months, and it was very hard. So you doing it long term, especially those Connecticut winters, probably aren't that fun, are they?
Yeah, we drove all over the place, so it's a good time. It's just hard when you don't know where you're going to be every night.
Yeah, it's a little bit of that underlying anxiety. That was the worst part for me.
Yeah,
But
it was the same.
you seem to be a little bit more of an adjusted ultra runner, so that like unaware of what you're going to be doing or what you'll see, it probably isn't that big of a deal to you, considering you're going to be running across the country. So let's start at the beginning, though. Your first ultra was in 2006, and it was the Chicago Lakefront 50 miler. So why did you decide to do your first ultra? And had you been a runner, and were you doing races before that?
Um, Casually, I think like a lot of people, uh, I ran one marathon and thought, oh, that I'm done with that. That was really painful. Check that box. And then a few years after that, I ran. I think like a lot of people, I read Dean Karnazes' book, Ultramarathon Man, and got inspired by that and thought, you know what, maybe I can do that. That sounds like something plausible. And ran my first race and found out I might actually be even competitive, and kind of went from there.
All right. So how did the first race go? I think I read did you run about like 8.5 hours or?
I can't remember what my first 50 was. I think I remember I got in top 10, as far as place goes, and that inspired me, and I kept going back to that race year after year until I finally won it a few years later. So that was my backyard for a long time. It was in Chicago, and
I
so
want to do that someday. It looks really like it looks flat and fast, kind of like
if you
what I like.
want to run a fast 50, Chicago's a good spot to do it. So I did well as long as Oz Perlman didn't show up, and then he would come and crush everybody and run it in like 5 hours.
All right. Well, your next ultra was a 100 miler. So you jumped right in. And what
Yeah.
made you decide to go from 50 to 100 so fast?
Well, I
Like
think
you, like literally, it was like less than 6 months.
Yeah, well, my goal from the beginning was to move up to bigger distances. That first one really crushed me, over 33 hours, and thought I was gonna die. A lot
Why?
of tears, a lot of blood. Uh, Very, very hilly course, and thought I was in shape for it, but learned halfway through that I was not. Ended up with very, very swollen legs, and just a crying mess.
Oh.
But I finished it. It was great.
And then you did
And
another one 6 months later, so it
yeah,
must have not been that bad.
yeah. Well, and 9 years later, I ran that same race, Potawatomi, and it went from 33 hours to 19 hours.
Oh,
And so it just shows like what we're capable of if you practice long enough. So
sure. Did you run in high school and college?
I did cross country and track, but I wasn't very good. I was, maybe the top third in the state. So, certainly wasn't a superstar or anything like that. So, but I've discovered that the longer the race is, the more competitive I'm able to be because I'm not very fast, but I can just keep going.
How many marathons have you done? Did you do before you did the first 50?
I think just the one, if I remember right.
And
So
have you done any since or just ultras?
I've done a few. I guess I have done. I've done a handful. So there was a time I was doing a few to qualify for Boston. So did that once. Ran Boston 2009.
Oh, okay. And have you run Hartford?
I have not. So I
Did
worked
I talk to you
on
at all
Hartford.
last year?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
Are you the social media person?
I did our sponsorship. So um, we had Liz Cowles does our social media.
Okay, because I don't know. I don't know. I met up with so many people. I don't know that like it was an amazing race, obviously, like best of my life. So that's pretty
This
neat. How did you land that job?
Well, I have a background in sponsorship marketing, and I've worked with festivals, museums, causes, races, anything where has a lot of people and where brands want to engage people, which is why I have some time on my hands because since we don't have any events right now, I'm creating my own.
Where have you worked previously before Hartford?
Primarily, I work with a consulting company called IEG, so we're sponsorship.com, and that was out of Chicago. But then over the years, worked in a few other places too.
Oh, okay, cool. So are you a little bit of a nomad?
I have been the last few years, not necessarily intentionally, but here we go. I have enjoyed van life, and I've lived on the West Coast a few times for a few years. So this cross country run in part is connecting a lot of different places I've lived, and the one nice thing about having lived everywhere is I have friends all over the country. So it'll be fun to see everybody.
Sure. So have you always had the same van?
I bought the van 2018 and actually been renting it out. It's been very popular during these times because it's one of the few things that people can do. So it's actually what I'm waiting on. As soon as I get my van back, that's when I'll get it and then start to head out west. So I'm hoping that the current renter doesn't damage it or anything because I really need it.
So did you buy it already built out, or did you build it out yourself?
Yeah, it was a road trick. So I'm not that capable of building something on my own.
And inside it's completely fitted and everything. Do you have solar panels?
Yep, solar panels on the roof. Bed, fridge, whole kitchen, two burner stove. So it's got every bathroom, everything that you'd have in a normal house, just teeny, teeny, tiny.
That's like tiny house life.
Tiny house life. So one of the nice things about getting a van compared to other RVs is you could park it anywhere. So
Yes.
that's one of the key attractions is it fits in a normal parking spot, just barely.
Can you stand up in it?
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay,
about
I
the
couldn't
whole
stand
thing's
up
about
in
10 feet
mine.
tall.
That was one of the things. I couldn't stand up.
That'd be rough.
Yeah, but it was a good experience for me. I think it did make me tougher, because I built mine out, so I learned like a lot of different things. And I don't know if I've retained anything, but Whenever I don't think I can do something hard, I'm like, well, I lived in a van, so I think I can do something hard.
Well, you're more capable than me. There's no way I could have built this out. It would have taken me decades.
So, other notable things you did, and I read this on your blog because this is the reason the blog was started, was in 2008 you ran 195 miles in the Medal for Medals. Can you explain to me what that is and what went down?
Yeah, so I've volunteered for this charity Medals for Medal for quite some time. So we take medals mostly donated from races, and they clean them up, put new ribbons on them, and give them out typically at children's hospitals. So kids can get a medal for having medal and showing their toughness. And at the time, the charity was just in Indianapolis and Chicago, and so we did this basically 200-mile run as sort of as a fundraiser, but also to get publicity, just to point out so that people are aware of the charity. And it worked pretty well. We did tons of interviews in Chicago, on the road, raised a bunch of money, and so that was a lot of fun. And that was kind of the first template of realizing that you can do these, a crazy run expedition and leverage that to get raise money and publicity for a good cause. So I've actually done this a few times. We did ran the length of Illinois in a week. A group of us did, which is 430 miles. And then we also did a charity run in Panama to raise money for a local school there. So, I've discovered that the press, loves these kind of feel-good stories, and it's something that I'm interested in doing. And especially at this time, I looked around and thought, what can I do to do something good? Since I don't have any work, let's run across country.
Yeah, I mean, I just take more naps. I mean, but hey.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting tired of sitting in my apartment. So.
Yeah, I know, I get that. I think also I've talked to a lot of runners during this time, and I think all of us have a little bit of a narcissist in us, in that we're struggling to stay relevant. And without races, you can't be like, oh, I did this race, and so it's not, and I think what you've done is wonderful. I'm not saying this in a way, I think it's something we all struggle with, that we all just want to feel like we're doing something important or something good for something else. But a little bit of it, or a lot of it for some of us is like, I also want people to remember me, remember what I'm doing. And I think you've found a way to channel that in a pretty good way. You're raising money for a bunch of different organizations. I mean, you get to run in beautiful places. And so I think that, in a small, in a small way, we're all feeling the same way. We all just want to find something to do that, reminds us of like, oh, hey, I did that. And so. And I mean, said the press loves a feel-good story, so
Exactly, and it's been fun to watch since there isn't events. All the top runners are going after these FKTs, and the records are falling all over the place. So it's kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think the reason, it's two-part. It's like, for an FKT, you can go whenever you want. So when you're peaking and your body's ready to go, and that's when you should go. And I think that's one of the reasons they're all falling. Like people are like, well, I feel good now. I don't need to wait for 2 weeks for this race to happen. But then also I love like what racing also brings, that like you need to time it right. You need to be on your A game on that day. You need to have, So I appreciate it all. But I'm someone, I'll wait till races come back and they come back safely. I'm not about racing right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long road, so but we might as well get outside, right?
Yeah.
Like outside is not closed.
So you did Western States in 2010. Can you tell me a little bit about that and your experience there?
That was a rough race for me. I was going in hoping to do maybe 16, 17 hours, ended up taking me 23. So it was rough. Had some knee troubles. But it's a very inspiring race. The night before the race and the pre-race meeting, you look around and it's the fittest people in the world, and so it's really inspiring, and the whole town comes out for it. So, compared to most hundreds where it's literally just the people running it and their support crew, like this, there's a huge amount of support, and getting to the track after struggling mightily over a couple mountain passes and snow and heat. It's a lot of fun.
So 16 to 17 hours is really fast. And that year was the unbreakable. Oh God, I can't speak. The year with Killian and Jeff Rose and Hal Corner. When in the early miles, were you running with those guys?
Oh no, they were ahead of me the entire way.
What was it like to be in? I mean, I guess you didn't know what was going down, but I mean, those were the original people,
Yep. Yeah, I watched the documentary later and then realized, oh, that was the race I was in, but I was miles and miles behind.
What kind of outfit did you go for? Did you go for the Killian, white spandex? Did you go for the Jeff Rose, bald mullet on top with barely any clothes?
I don't recall, but they have more style than I do, that's for sure.
So you've been in the sport for a long time. You've seen fads come and go. Let's talk about shoes. You saw the rise of the really minimal shoes, and then the Anton, and then the really tall stack height shoes that now we have with Hoka, and I mean now we got the Nike stuff going on, which that's more road. But what kind of, do you have a preference, or what do you do?
Yeah, I've really embraced zero drop. I discovered one of the Achilles problems was the injury I used to get, and I transferred to zero drop shoe, and I now land on my front foot rather than my heel, and that's really helped me not get injured for several years now. And then I did, when we were running the length of Illinois, I was just wearing regular running shoes. My feet were absolutely destroyed, and I borrowed a friend's Hokas the first time I'd worn anything like that thick. It was huge fat shoes, and that saved my life. So I've embraced the thick padding for any time that I do anything over 50 miles. So actually I wear these, I don't remember what they're called, but I'm using these ultras that are pretty fat, and I'm planning on using those for most of the run across the US. So I've appreciate the minimal. I think I probably should run with less more, or try to go barefoot more to strengthen your feet. I think there's some good science behind that, but if you're going to run 100 miles, you kind of need to wear a shoe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said with we have shoes because back in the olden days there weren't roads or concrete and stuff that we're running on.
Right.
So it's a little bit different. With technology comes more technology. It's create a problem, solve a problem.
Yeah. I appreciate people that can go barefoot. Like I said, I wish I probably should do it more, but not if you run on the road.
Yeah, I'm a Crocs. I live in my Crocs when I'm not in running shoes, and because they're plushy. I work on my feet, and it's hard in there. We do have the pads on the ground, but after I have to get new Crocs, I'm in those. Oh God, it's great. No shame. So protect your feet. Would you rather run barefoot and then either get injured or step on a twig or splint or whatever, or run in normal shoes and be able to run? I mean, to me, it's but I do think that when we're walking around and stuff at home when I'm not usually at work, I have a pair of Ultras and I wear them all the time. They're great. I love the wide toe box. That's my favorite part. But then other times it's too wide sometimes, and when I'm trying to run really fast, they're not exactly the greatest shoe for speed. So, but great shoe, great company as well.
Yeah.
So so you have been running ultras for like about 15 years. Yes, 2006, it was 2020.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
tell me about something that like maybe stood out to you in this past, like what keeps you running ultras all the time, and what's your training look like?
Um, y- the main reason is just to see how far you could push yourself. Um, I just want to. I like to test myself and see where things start to break down. What's your absolute limit? So it's certainly, and am competitive and I do race, but it's mostly about seeing where the breakdowns are. My training is I run quite a bit. 100-mile weeks is pretty common. Try to get to the track once or twice and do quote unquote speed work. It's usually 800 repeats. Anything faster than that, and it feels like, or shorter than that, I feel floppy. Uh, yeah, but
You
and I
should
do
have at least one
used to
lap
do
of the track
some.
to get warmed up for each thing. That's I mean, I need at least one lap of the track to get warmed up. Or I'm like, the first interval is a warm up loop, right, coach? Like,
Yeah, I really don't feel comfortable until I'm about 5 to 7 miles in, and then you start to actually get a rhythm.
I used to be like that, but recently my runs have been 30 to 45 minutes, and that, for right now, for my life, that's good enough. Getting my little
Right.
bit of juice in the morning. Um, what do you like? How do you structure your week? Is it double runs or is it singles?
Well, lately, just whenever. So, working from home, all that sort of stuff. It depends on what you had in the morning or evenings. Um, for a long time, I did doubles because I ran to work and back when I was living in Chicago. So, my main goal is to try to get at least 10 miles a day during the week, and then on the weekends, one or maybe two long runs of anywhere between 30 and 60 miles. And I found anything
One
much
run
farther than that. Yeah, yeah, 50,
every
50
week.
mile field. Pretty much. Yeah. So for a long, long time, that was the standard. On Saturday, I would just run all day until I had something I needed to do, like meet people for dinner or something like that. So depends on what I had going on. So
All right, all right. I take it there's like, so what is your like? Is your social life running as well?
yeah, a lot of my friends, especially in Connecticut, working for a marathon organization. Most of your friends end up being runners.
Yeah, you could like hit them
But
all. Like finish Johnny's run, then go to Susie's, then go to Daryl, then go to yeah. All right, you're
no,
like the ultimate training buddy. Like, how fast are you running at all these things?
general training pace, if it's just long, slow distance, is probably 8:30, and then try to get some speed work in. And it's a lot, but I don't own a car, so I go everywhere on foot,
Okay.
which wasn't a big deal living in Chicago, but Connecticut's a little bit different. It's kind of car heavy, but I've managed it for over a year and a half.
Nice. Nice. We have a van.
Yeah, I've been renting it out, so it's usually not around, and I hate to fire up the van for a few mile trip into town.
So your
Might as well go on foot.
PR for 100 is it 15:30?
Yeah, that was this December in Las Vegas.
Was that so? Is that like a pretty flat course, or is it hilly, or how is it?
It was modestly hilly. It was a 2.5 mile loop,
Okay.
uh, and it made me interested in potentially going to like 6 days in the dome, or one of those uh, tracks where it's best conditions, kind of see what could I do in ideal conditions. I surprised myself by being able to run under 16.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. That's super speedy. Have you had any like inclination to see what you could do like in a marathon, or is that just not long enough?
I don't. Oops, are you still there?
Yep.
Sorry, my phone was beeping. Um, I'd be curious to try it again. My best marathon's not super great. It's two something. My fastest marathon I actually did during a 50-mile race.
wow. Which 50 mile, the lakefront?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah, yeah. I did um, it's interesting what you could do when you're not thinking about it. So it was around Halloween, and it was actually out at a party the night before this 50-mile race, and was planning on just going for a minute, like having a drink with people, saying hi to everybody, and then going home early because I had a race that started at 5 o'clock in the morning. And was there, had another drink, and then people were encouraging to stay. And then next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I finally go home, get home, and then plan on just not running this race in the morning because I was tired, half drunk, uh, trying to go to sleep, and then forgot that my friend was going to come pick me up for this 50-mile race. And I'm like, oh crap! Well, he's coming all out of his way. I've got to get up. So on no sleep, I go to this race, and when it starts, it was immediately just me and one other guy running in first and second place. And because I was drunk, um, I was just trying to keep up with him. He was a Division One cross country athlete, and so much faster than me. But because I wasn't thinking about it, I was keeping up with him. And then halfway through the race, I realized that I had just gotten my PR in a marathon, and I still had another marathon to go. Uh, and ended up I think with a 6 hour 13:50 mile, which was about 45 minutes faster than I had planned to run the race. And so it just goes to show if you're not thinking about it, if you can act, we're much more capable than what we realize. So I wouldn't recommend running inebriated, and I don't think I'd do it again. But it was something that really kind of struck home to me that we're capable of more than what we realize. So that was a lesson I learned the hard way. But
Hey, I mean, maybe like sometimes I tell people the reason I can wake up and run straight up a hill is because I'm asleep. And so by the time I get up the hill, I'm awake then and I've been sleeping. So that's pretty cool. That's an experience of where you could do more than you're capable of. Where is some point where you bit off more than you can chew and it blew up in your face?
mm, I guess probably Western States is a good one.
What
So
happened?
there's well, it started off bad. So the Western States course starts at forget the name of the city, but you go up a ski slope is the very first thing. And at the top, this was a 2009. It was a snowy year, and was in the snow and slipped and fell and almost fell off the mountain right away. Bruised myself up, got a knee injury, and then continued to think that I was going to be on pace, even though I was limping from the beginning. Get to the 50-mile mark and pretty much completely blew up from there. So that's what happens when you try to stick to a plan, no matter what, without adjusting your plans. So I should have, from the beginning, realized that it was going to be a tough day and not try to keep on my goal pace. But that second half was gnarly. Couldn't run downhill. Quads were shot. Everybody was passing me.
Sorry, that was my phone. Geez, we're just wanted people today. I don't know what it is. Nobody calls me. Um, well, that's really interesting. Actually, that happened to my friend Jason too. Like he was like, it's not often that an East Coast runner gets into Western States, and so when he got in a couple years ago, you know, we were all really excited, and he was doing pretty good, and then he blew up towards the end. So kind of sucks. I don't know that's another mindset thing. Like I don't know how I'm trying to figure it out how you guys just slog it in for like 6 hours. How do you
just
why?
just takes practice.
Oh, yeah, right. Seriously. So, how do you practice for stuff like that? Like, have you ever gone on a training run where it just, you know, you blew up and just donezo?
Yes, yeah, it happens.
And what do you do?
So, well, you got to get home, right?
That's true.
So when I first started training for ultras, I would basically just run as far from home as I could, and then be exhausted and then turn around and have to go home.
All
You
right.
got to
Yeah.
get back.
Good
So
training.
go as far as you can and then go home. And you can
Have
start
you
really
ever,
racking up the miles that way.
so what's the longest you've run so far?
It depends on how you count it.
What
Basically
is
at
one
one
go?
go, yeah. The From Chicago to Indianapolis, that was probably the longest, which is 195, 200 miles. It took about 50 hours, I think. And I slept about, I can't remember, maybe 30 or 40 minutes on the second night. Uh, and so if you count that as one go, um,
I mean,
that's,
people sleep in 200-mile races, and I consider that a one go.
yeah. So, and then we did the length of Illinois, that was 430 miles. We ran from town to town and stayed in hotels. And so it depends on how you count that. That was like 60 something miles a day. That was pretty rough too. So I feel like I could run 40 miles a day for a long time, but once you get up into 60, 70 miles a day, it starts to get really hard because you start using your whole day.
Did you watch or read anything about Ricky Gates run across America?
I haven't, which is interesting. I've been so preparing for the run across America. I've been talking to people that have done it, trying to read as much as I can. I talked to Marshall Ulrich this week. Talked to Jason Romero, who was the first blind runner to finish. They both did really heavy mileage, so it's been really useful to talk to people that have done it and try to see what advice there is. There's just so much compared to other runs that I've done. There's just a lot more logistics to this one, especially during this time. So I want to make sure that we have everything we need and that you don't do something stupid in the desert or things like that.
Well, what stood out to me, so Rich Roll interviewed Ricky Gates on his podcast, so I can actually send that to you because that's a really good episode. And it
That'd
talked
be great.
what? Sorry.
That'd be great. Please do.
They talked a lot, not like a little bit about the training, but more about like the social issues and things that like I don't know. I haven't studied your route too much, but there's a lot of political and social unrest in America, and I mean, I don't want to talk about like your political views or anything, but like, are you worried at all that you're going to come into some divisive place, like some place, and even now more so, like the mask issue and like southern states just aren't doing super great, and all these places, like you're kind of like running through places and you might be seen as a carrier and it's so I mean there's a lot of things going on right now. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're planning on going across the country right now, we have to be very considerate of what the situations are in each state, in each town. Certainly me and my crew are going to be wearing our masks, even if places are not. The route is going to start in San Francisco, close to the Golden Gate Park, and then you go through the California desert, up through the Sierras, south of Tahoe, then through Nevada, through northern Nevada, and frankly, most of the time, if you're going through these areas, you're really not going to see anybody. So we're extraordinarily socially distanced. Except for when you got to stop for supplies. And Fortunately, I have Stop and Shop as a sponsor of mine. So we're going to have it loaded up with food as much as possible. So the only things that hopefully we're going to need is gas and sometimes groceries. And the rest of the route will go through Utah, south of Salt Lake City, up through the Rockies. I know a lot of people in Boulder, so going to go through Boulder. We're staying out of major cities except for Chicago and Cleveland. But you go north of Denver, through Nebraska, through Iowa, Illinois, and through Chicago, which is where I lived off and on for over 17 years. So just know a lot of people there. And then across Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and then we're back here to the East Coast. So definitely, thinking about the current situation. But for the most part, we're going to be way far away from people.
Yeah, and I think Ricky Gates was self-supported, so he like pushed Truly, I think that's what it's called. And so he was stopping at gas stations and stuff. And it was very interesting because, of course, I come from the perspective like he probably met a bunch of racists and a bunch of people. And I mean, but he also said like some of the nicest people also that like really helped him out were in the South and, you know, stuff like that. And so it's going to be a wonderful experience just if you do like, I mean, it kind of stinks that you're not going to be meeting people as much, you know, like, because what an experience to really like you see all the videos, the viral videos of the crazy people, and so you think that all people are like that from that area, right. But they're not. It's just like a random, you know, Karen or Chad or whatever we're saying right now.
Yeah. Well, I generally believe that the vast majority of people are good, no matter their political ideology, and there is the random crazy people that you got to deal with, but for the most part, I think, you know, it's positive. So I'm looking forward to seeing the country. I've driven across the country several times in the van and some other things, and I've ran in nearly all states, but this will be the first time to go from state to state.
So let's talk about a little bit like getting out of the van. So when I lived in my van, sometimes like in driving places, like, do you just like park the van, get out and go run somewhere? Or like, I mean, I assume you mostly stop at trails and stuff like that, but sometimes like I would get so stiff in the van, and when I got out, I was just like, I can barely even walk, and I was like a floppy bag of jello. And so how does it work? Like, what do you do? What's your procedure?
You mean for the run across the United States, or?
No, I mean just in general.
Well, when I was living in the van, I was living, my girlfriend and I, we were traveling around, going to races. I had clients all over the United States, so we go to festivals and go to national parks, and just, you know, try to get out at least once a day and get a run in, no matter where you are. You know, it's a lot of times you would try to make that in, you know, state parks, national parks, but sometimes you run around a Walmart parking lot. You know, it just depends on the day.
Like, we're not talking about like 2 or 3 miles. Your runs are like hours.
Yeah, it was not always easy doing van life that way, but when you have a home base, it is a little bit easier to get the distance in.
Also, like whenever I left, unless I knew like the place I was leaving my van was secure, like I like my whole life is in there, you know. It's like it's another jarring thing. Sometimes the anxiety would just eat away at me.
Yeah, I guess I probably should have been more worried about it, but
No,
we never
don't
lost anything.
like really. But then again, I am like a young white female, like a young white small female, so I just like a little different. But now,
Yeah.
like I live on the upstairs of an apartment, and my downstairs neighbor's rough enough around the edges. Nobody's gonna bother us.
Yeah, I don't have much of anything that's valuable anyway. So.
Are you going to keep a log of like, so you have a hashtag. So let's start talking about the trip. So again, you're running across the country, starting in San Francisco, coming back to Connecticut. You posted it about on Facebook. What's it called? Shan's Run Across America. Is that what it's called?
Yep.
And so is that the hashtag? Like, are you on Instagram?
Yes, exactly. So, and our website we're going to launch pretty soon. Fortunately, I've got my crew chief, Callie. She's a marketing professional, as am I. And so we're leveraging our talents to try to raise as much awareness so that we can get a lot of focus on Food Share and Feeding America, which is the charities that we're supporting. So hashtag is Shan Runs Across America. We're so hopefully you could post when this posts, our website should be ready. So there'll be places for people to hopefully donate there.
Next week or the week following. So
Perfect.
It'll coincide with when you leave. So
perfect. Yeah, that'd be great. And I think especially during this time, it's helpful just to have, for me, it'll be helpful just to be able to go clear my mind and get away from all the terrible news that's in the news these days, but hopefully it can also give an inspiring story to people that need it, and also really want to raise money for Food Share. Food need has gone up by about 30% this year, and at the same time, grocery stores have less food to give. So it's a really critical point for food charities and groups that support food insecurity. So hopefully, I'm going to shine a light as much as I can on that, because it's it's a critical point in this whole 2020.
Yeah, I can speak to that because I work for a local bakery and sandwich shop. And in the beginning of the pandemic, like I already have an issue with waste. Like I will eat everything, like as much as I can of every. Like I hate throwing things away. Like even if it's like might be past its prime. I've gotten food poisoning from it before. Like I just hate waste. It's like a huge sticking point with me. That's like one pet peeve. And so in the beginning of the pandemic, unfortunately, like being part of a restaurant and bakery is there is waste. And so what we started to do, and I'd like to think that this was my idea, but I'm not going to like steal anyone's fire, is we started to give away all the stuff at the end of the night. And now people in the community come and like get it. And yeah, it's a little bit like, choosy beggars a little bit. It's become that situation sometimes, but at the end of the day, I'm really happy that somebody's eating the food. So I definitely understand about how, some people are in dire situations. I mean, like unemployment benefits ended in the end of July. Like they're not going to be as big. Like evictions are happening. People can't, it's hard to get food now for some people. So it's really important what you're doing. And I'm really happy that you chose that charity.
Yeah, and there's some people that aren't able to get some of the unemployment and the stimulus money, especially immigrants and people with disabilities. So there's a huge need, and it's only growing. Just want people to realize that, and if you can't donate money, maybe donate time. I'm going to Rentschler Field tomorrow morning, where Food Share has been delivering food Monday through Friday for months on end now, and there didn't used to be that kind of necessity. So it's just something I hope that people can realize that even if you have food, there are people down the street, could be your neighbor, could be somebody that you would never expect to have that kind of need, but maybe during this time they're struggling, and a lot of people don't like to talk about it. I think sometimes people think that the food insecure are the homeless, but it's much bigger problem than that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So switching gears a little bit, you run a lot and you spend most of your time running. And so I'm kind of wondering, I mean, you could train for these events and not have to run that much, or you could do something else with your time. Are you running from something? Like, do you have any like demons in the back there that are just like compelling you to do this? Or so, ultra runners have demons. Do you come from addiction?
No, no, it's I consider myself to be a happy adjusted person as far as I know. Uh, and it really is just about trying to see what my own limits are. And once you do something really, really hard, it makes the other hard things in your life easier. So once you've run a 100-mile race, waking up and getting ready to go to work, you can't really have an excuse.
Well, yeah, but you could get that same feeling after running 30 to 45 minutes. Like, because I had that too. I was like, oh, if it's not over an hour, is it really a run and stuff? And like, I took a week off because I was feeling tired. I mean, it was the end of a training cycle and I was just tired. And then now coming back to it just this past couple days, like 30 to 45 minutes is what my coach is giving me. And I'm like, that's like all I need to be my happy, peppy self, to like believe in myself. So like, what is it that it's like it needs to be 3 hours?
That's a good point. You mean, if you're doing it for your health, 30 to 45 minutes is probably the right amount of time. So there's absolutely no need to go out for 3, 4, 5, 10, 24, 48 hours. I always tell people that the training for an ultra marathon is healthy. The races almost certainly are not, because you are a mess.
Yeah, that's true. Well, that's great. I mean, Yes, not everybody needs to have something they're running from. Are you running towards anything? Do you have any goals?
Um,
Running across America?
Run across America, get to the end of 2020. How's that
Yeah,
for
that's
a
actually
goal?
a very good goal. That's the only goal we should all have. With new leadership, I think that's our goal.
Fingers crossed. Vote.
So why don't you give everybody, oh, actually, so before we do that, we're going to play a game. It's called Ideal Aid Station. And so I'm
Okay.
going to ask you a couple of fun questions and just think of the first thing that pops into your mind. So Ideal Aid Station, you're coming to an aid station. What is your favorite sweet snack?
None. I'm not really a big sweets person.
Anything.
A muffin?
All right, there you go. That's fine. Favorite salty snack?
Boiled potatoes.
Yes, salted ones. Favorite hot food?
Soup.
What kind?
Tomato.
Oh, really? Oh, I've never had that. I'm more of like a chicken noodle, like a ramen, like that fake shit. Like, give me the MSG.
Aid station food is the worst.
It is. It is. Like, want to kill someone? Go to an aid station. Favorite sports drink?
Tailwind.
Favorite non-sports drink?
Diet Coke.
Oh, interesting. Just for what? Because it doesn't do anything.
I got hooked on it. And so now instead of coffee, I have Diet Coke in the morning.
Oh, God. Okay. All right. At your aid station? Like Diet
Yeah.
Coke?
Yep.
But, like, isn't the allure of Coke, like, because it so gives you some juice?
Yeah. Once you get
Coke
the
got that fake
sucralose
stuff.
or
Yeah, no,
whatever,
I get it.
yeah,
I get it.
real sugar tastes terrible to me, but the fake sugar is good.
So strange. So you need to be evaluated. Um, Piece of gear or item that you would want at your aid station waiting for you.
New shoes?
Okay. You change your shoes frequently during races?
No, not really. In fact, I rarely change anything. So I'm kind of a gear minimalist. I don't
Yeah.
wear a watch usually, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I've never like been a big gear person. So just give
That,
me some like
that,
squirrel's nut butter, petroleum jelly, whatever, and I'm fine.
yes,
You can
yes.
wear anything, that stuff.
That two times it actually be occasionally an extremely important gear item.
All right, last question. If you could have a celebrity or a famous person or somebody to meet you at the aid station just to give you a little pep, or even if they were able to share some miles with you, who would it be?
Uh, I'd probably be Marshall Ulrich.
Oh, okay. He's done bad. Did he do the Badwater Quad?
He did Badwater Choir. He's kind of known as Mr. Badwater, and I was fortunate to be able to talk with him this week. And he, at 57 years old, ran across the country, one of the best times ever, and is just a tough and also very nice person.
Mm-hmm.
So, especially if it's at an aid station, somebody like that. And I have a lot of other friends that would be also very good people to meet at an aid station at a tough time.
That's cool. Well, those are all my questions for Ideal Aid Station. And to close out the interview, which thank you for doing this again and taking your time. I'm thrilled because when you said Hartford Half Marathon, did I meet him? Like, who knows? Maybe I did.
We may have.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? And if our paths ever meet again, it will probably be at that event. So I don't know if I'm going to be running across America anytime.
And I'm signed up for the Hartford Marathon, half marathon, 10K, and 5K. It's going to happen virtually this year, so I will probably be somewhere in maybe Utah
Yeah.
or Colorado, but I could still. It'll be the first time I can actually run an HMF event, and it won't even be in Connecticut. So
If they when things open back up and stuff, are you going to go back?
I don't know. It doesn't look like it. So
Okay.
I'm searching for work. So if anybody hears this needs a sponsorship marketing professional, I am currently looking for a job.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, folks. Trails Collective. Where can people find you on Instagram and online?
Yeah, so just Shan Riggs. It's SHAN and RIGGS, and you can find all my social. Our website's shanrunsacrossamerica.com, and I'm have a relatively unique name, so it's easy to find.
Yes, it is. All right. Well, thank you so much, Shan, and good luck. And I'll let you know when this comes out. And in the meantime, I'll do my best to plug it when I can. I'm not, it's some things are going on up there, but sometimes I forget. So, and also feel free to push and be like, oh, hey, could you shout this out? And I totally will. So yeah, it'll be great.
Sounds good.
Well, have a good rest of your day, Shan. Thank you.
Nice to talk to you.
Bye.